I'm pushing it to its limits. And it's getting a cooling upgrade too. I found a forum thread where somebody got the same CPU that's in this computer to 4.2 gigahertz by overclocking it. May I remind you that this CPU released in 2009 has a base speed of 2.8 gigahertz and a max turbo speed of 3.4. 4.2 gigahertz on a first gen i7, crazy work. I don't know if I'm gonna get there, but this thing's either gonna get to 4 gigahertz or die in the process. My goal is an even 4 gigahertz. Clearly the stock cooler is not gonna do that, which is why I invested in the water cooling setup. I will install that later. But for now, a quick history recap on what this computer is. Originally, I found this computer in a Bottle Depot parking lot. It had no RAM in it, so I spent $10 on that in the first video, and then it became the $10 computer. Of course, back then it had a terrible Core i3, so I spent $20 upgrading it to the Core i7, and put in the GTX 1060 and added more RAM. Total investment right now is about $120, and it performed pretty well for a computer that's that cheap. But I think that it's got more in it. Let's see if we can overclock it. First things first, baseline numbers. How does this CPU perform completely stock default BIOS settings? I'm gonna be testing everything with Cinebench R15. That's just what I usually use. This is still with the stock cooler. The water cooling is gonna get installed later. And the benchmark is running. It looks like our CPU has settled in at 2.9 gigahertz, which is technically above base clock, but barely. I think we can do better. And our score, 436. You can see I ran this before and actually got 444, so we're down on performance apparently. Anyways, let's get into that BIOS and see if we can just turn up the dials a bit. I should probably mention, I have never overclocked anything before. I am learning this in real time. I do not know what's happening. I'm not going to go crazy on the first test. I just want to lock in a stable 3 gigahertz so I can get a score with manual clock speed set. Intel speed step disabled. Extreme phase full power mode. I don't know, maybe we want that. The highest the CPU ratio goes to is 22, so I'm gonna lock that in. And base clock frequency, we just turn this up until we hit 3 gigahertz. Let's go 137. That's over 3 gigahertz. 3 gigahertz is not pushing this chip, so I shouldn't have to touch voltages or anything yet. I'm just gonna try and run it just like this. Save changes. Let's do it. And there's our CPU test running again, but this time, 3 gigahertz in Task Manager. And our temperatures, they're definitely getting up there, 74, but we're not at the limit of this cooler quite yet. And our score was not even slightly better. 434? Okay, more clock speed. I have a theory that my CPU ratio actually needs to be at 21 and that 22 is not actually higher ratio, but that's the turboing, which means that I need to bump this up to 150 to get almost 3.2 gigahertz. Locked in here at 3.15 gigahertz. That is definitely going faster, I can tell. Actually an improvement. 467 is 1.05 times the score of the stock speeds. Let's push it farther. All right, let's just put in something crazy. 180, what does that come out to? 3.8 gigahertz. There's no way that this works without touching voltages. I'm gonna try it anyway. Exit and save. I'm ready for my first blue screen, bring it on. The computer's not even booting. Oh? Oh, it is booting, okay. Oh, there it is. Yeah, that was expected. We need to raise voltages. At least I think that's how this works. I still don't actually know. BIOS, 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 BIOS. Time to copy someone else's hard work and steal all their voltage settings from the forum. We want 1.25625 volts on our CPU. DRAM voltage, we're going for, oh, that's too much. We want 1.6. Okay, 1.8 volts. PCH, 1.05. Can I now magically run my CPU at 3.8 gigahertz? Yeah, that's gonna be a no. Oh, it lost all my settings. Why? After many blue screens and changing voltages around, I eventually came to the conclusion, my RAM sucks. This is the RAM I was using. It's ADATA, I know nothing more about it. I swapped it out for some of the RAM out of one of those Dell Optiplexes, and it booted. Not at 3.8 gigahertz, but I got 3.6. In hindsight, 3.8 gigahertz was probably a little bit aggressive. Let's test 3.6. Benchmark is running, and there is our solid 3.58, almost 3.6 gigahertz. And this is the point where everything falls apart because CPU hit 98 degrees and the frequency fell because of that. That stock cooler has nothing more to give here. Although to be fair, to give it some credit, 1.2 times improvement, That's pretty impressive. Our score this time was 533 compared to our old score of 444. This does mean it's time for our cooler upgrade. Let's water cool this thing. This is my official Thermalright Aqua Elite unboxing. This actually looks pretty decent for, what, $60 I think I paid for this? Well, it appears there's no way to access the back of the CPU to put the backplate on. I guess that means I have to take the motherboard out of the case. That kind of sucks. That's what I needed access to. In theory, this goes here, screws here, these things go onto the screws, and then these bracket things, they go on here. I guess we're also getting a power supply upgrade because I don't really want to deal with that. This is definitely working. Same exact test as before. I was hitting over 90 degrees, chilling at 43 maximum now, actually idling at like 30. That's pretty good. With the cooling sorted out, it was time to find the limitations of this CPU. After 16 tests, I had 6 completed runs and 10 blue screens. The best score I got was a 551 at 3.7 gigahertz. This seemed to be a hard limit for this setup. At a base clock of 175, the run would complete successfully. If I turned it up to 176, it would crash every single time. It didn't matter what any other BIOS settings were or what I set the voltages to, it will not do 176. The good news, this overclock achieved 124% of the stock performance. A 24% improvement just by changing some BIOS settings? I can't complain about that. The bad news, after all of this testing, I turned the computer off in a totally working state, came back a few days later, it was just completely dead. I don't know what happened. If you try and turn it on now, all of the fans spin and then just nothing ever shows up on the screen. It's just completely dead. A couple thought processes here. Number one, the CPU could be cooked. I don't know, maybe I pushed it too hard. More likely though, I think the motherboard could be fried. I don't know, I did kind of just wildly mess around with voltages and I probably went a bit too far there. It could also possibly be that the RAM is fried. I think that's less likely. I'm gonna try and put the old Core i3 back in and see if it'll post. Goodbye, actually good CPU. And here is my old Core i3. Oh, it's back, it's alive. Windows is not exactly booting up. It says preparing automatic repair and then crashes and starts over. I might have to reinstall Windows. Let's just try Linux, I have a USB. Putting the old Core i3 back into this thing and seeing that the BIOS now worked gave me high hopes. Nothing boots, I don't know what's going on. Windows 10 that was on here doesn't load. I tried loading Ubuntu, I tried loading Linux Mint. Nothing works, I can't get anything to boot. There's something wrong with this thing. I even tried like taking out the graphics card. It just doesn't work anymore. I guess that means this is the end of the $10 computer and you probably won't see it again because it's very broken. This thing survived over 15 years in its previous life. I've had it for a few months and it is fully cooked. For finding it in a Bottle Depot parking lot though, I have to say, I've gotten my money's worth out of it. Parts of this that can live on. I still have the case and the power supply, they probably have more life left in them. And also the RAM, maybe this Core i3 is still fine. I see no reason why it should be broken, but the motherboard, I'm pretty sure the motherboard's cooked. And probably also that Core i7. Thank you for watching and for getting me over 5,000 subscribers. Leave your rest in peace for the $10 computer in the comments. Until next time, goodbye $10 computer. I'm gonna miss this thing. It was really fun to experiment with.